My name is Maya Carter. I am 31 years old and I work as a data analyst at a firm in Illinois. I spend most of my days reading numbers. The way a tiny anomaly uncovers a massive hidden trend. The way one decimal completely changes the truth. 6 years of doing that, and I got pretty good at spotting fraud on a screen. In people though, specifically in my own family, I missed every sign. What my brother-in-law did at a quiet family dinner last October, and what happened 8 months later when the letter arrived, taught me that the most dangerous thief isn't a stranger. It's the one who smiles at your table and calls you family. If this story moves you, drop a comment below, and be sure to subscribe. The hardest part about living in a fake family is the smiling. Your face hurts, your chest feels heavy, but you just keep smiling. It was Friday, October 14th, 2022. The time was exactly 7:15 p.m. I was sitting at the heavy oak dining table in my parents' house in Maple Creek, Illinois. The house smelled like expensive vanilla candles and roasted chicken. To anyone looking through the window, we were the perfect American family. But inside that room, the air felt thick and hard to breathe. I sat quietly at the corner of the table, pushing cold peas around my plate. Across from me sat my younger sister, Chloe, and her husband, Liam. Chloe was the golden child. If she breathed, my parents clapped. She was 30 years old, but my mother, Helen, still treated her like a delicate little girl. Beside her was Liam. Liam was a tall, good-looking guy with a bright, charming smile. He called himself a freelance consultant. In real life, that meant he did not have a real job. He woke up at noon, played golf, and lived off my parents' credit cards. And then there was me, Maya, the older sister, the scapegoat, the one who was only remembered when there was a bill to pay or a mess to clean up. "Oh, Liam, please eat more," my mother said, her voice dripping with sweetness as she put the largest piece of chicken on his plate. "You need your strength." Liam rubbed his right shoulder and gave a sad, brave smile. "Thanks, Helen. My shoulder is killing me again. The doctor says I need a torn rotator cuff surgery. But you know how it is. The medical system in this country is a joke for independent workers like me." My dad, Arthur, nodded deeply, looking angry at the world. "It is totally unfair, son. A smart guy like you shouldn't have to suffer just because you don't want to be a corporate slave." I gripped my silver fork tightly. My fingers turned white. A month ago, I had earned a huge promotion. I was now a senior data analyst at Blue Ridge Tech. I worked 60 hours a week. I paid my own bills, bought my own car, and had a top-tier platinum health insurance plan. I had worked through sleepless nights and panic attacks to build a safe life for myself. When I told my parents about my promotion, my mom just said, "That's nice, Maya, but please don't talk about your money in front of Liam. It makes him feel bad about his startup failing." Now Liam looked across the table at me. His eyes were sharp, but his smile was soft. He was not a cartoon monster. He was worse. He was a real everyday manipulator. He truly believed he deserved everything I worked for. "You are so lucky, Maya," Liam said, sighing. "You have that fancy corporate health insurance. No copays, right? Everything covered. Must be nice to just swipe a card and get fixed up." "It is not luck, Liam," I said quietly. My voice was calm, but my heart was beating fast. "I work very hard for those benefits." The table went completely silent. You could hear the old grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Tick, tock. My mother glared at me. Her eyes were hard and cold. "Maya, there is no need to be rude," she snapped. "Liam is in a lot of pain. We should be supporting him, not making him feel less than. Family helps family." "I am just saying I work for it," I whispered, looking down at my plate. "Well, some of us have real-world problems," Chloe chimed in, rolling her eyes. She reached over and held Liam's hand. "Liam can't even sleep at night because of his shoulder. It is going to cost over $40,000 to fix it. We don't know what to do." "We will figure it out, sweetheart," my dad said quickly, patting Chloe's hand. "We always do." I looked at them. The four of them were a solid team, a wall. I was just the outsider sitting at the edge of the table. This was our toxic equilibrium. This was our normal. Liam and Chloe took everything, my parents gave everything, and I was expected to just sit there, stay quiet, and never ask for anything. After dinner, I went to the kitchen to wash the dishes. I always washed the dishes. The warm water ran over my hands, but I felt completely frozen inside. I felt an intense, crushing loneliness. I did not want their money. I just wanted them to be proud of me. Just once. Liam walked into the kitchen to grab a beer from the fridge. He stopped beside me and leaned against the counter. He smelled like expensive cologne, a bottle my dad had bought him for his birthday. "You left your purse in the hallway, Maya," he said casually, taking a sip of his beer. Your Blue Ridge Tech employee badge was sticking out. You shouldn't be so careless with your stuff. Somebody could steal your information. I didn't look at him. I just kept scrubbing a plate. I'll put it away, I muttered. Yeah, you do that, Liam smiled, a slow, easy smile. You really do have the good insurance, Maya. A girl like you really have it all. He walked away, leaving me alone with the dirty dishes. I did not know it then, but my nightmare had just begun. That was October 14. Exactly 8 months later, the mail would arrive. It was Sunday, June 18, 2023. Exactly 8 months had passed since that tense dinner. The time was 2 p.m. The summer sun was shining brightly over my parents' backyard in Maple Creek. The smell of charcoal, sizzling beef burgers, and sweet barbecue sauce filled the air. My dad was playing country music on a small radio. My sister Chloe was sitting on a lawn chair, painting her nails a bright pink color. It looked like a picture from a Happy Family magazine. I was sitting on the wooden steps of the back porch. I had arrived 10 minutes earlier. On my way to the barbecue, I had stopped at my apartment mailbox. I brought a small stack of mail with me, planning to sort through it while my parents cooked. Most of it was junk mail, but at the bottom of the pile was a thick, formal-looking envelope. The return address said, Apex Medical Financial Services, Chicago, Illinois. Above my name, there was a red stamp, urgent, 90 days past due, final notice. I frowned. I had not been to a hospital in years. I opened the envelope with my thumb. Inside were 3 pages of detailed billing statements. I started to read, and my heart suddenly skipped a beat. Account holder/financial guarantor, Maya Carter. Social security number, Maya Nanpoivinamig. Patient name, Liam Davis. Date of surgery, December 5, 2022. Procedure, arthroscopic rotator cuff repair. Total loan amount, $45,650 in dollars. Current balance with late fees, $48,200 in dollars. My hands started to shake. The paper rattled loudly in the quiet afternoon air. I read the words again, and again. Patient, Liam Davis. Guarantor, Maya Carter. A heavy, freezing cold feeling started in my stomach and spread up to my chest. My ears started to ring. The happy country music playing from my dad's radio sounded like it was a million miles away. How did he get my social security number? Then, a memory flashed in my mind like a movie scene. October 14, the dinner. I had left my purse on the hallway table. I had my social security card inside my wallet that week because I had to show it to the Human Resources Department for my new promotion. Liam had been alone in the hallway. He had looked inside my purse. He did not just look, he took pictures of my cards. I looked up from the paper. Across the bright green grass, Liam was standing by the grill. He was laughing at a joke my dad told. He reached up with his right arm, the same arm that used to cause him so much pain, and smoothly flipped a burger with a pair of metal tongs. His shoulder was perfectly healed. He had stolen my identity to take out a massive medical loan for his surgery. I felt like I could not breathe. This was not a normal family argument. This was not my mother ignoring my achievements. This was a federal crime. If I did not pay this, my perfect credit score, the credit score I had built by living carefully and saving every penny, would be completely destroyed. I would never be able to buy a house. My life would be ruined. The worst part was not the money. The worst part was the deep, crushing grief that hit me. I realized in that exact second that I was not a daughter or a sister to them. I was just an ATM machine. I was an object they could use and throw away. I stood up. My legs felt like heavy blocks of wood. I walked across the grass. The smell of the barbecue suddenly made me feel sick to my stomach. I stopped right next to Liam. He was smiling, wearing expensive sunglasses. "Hey Maya," he said happily. "Burgers are almost ready. You want cheese on yours?" I did not scream. I did not cry. My voice came out completely flat and empty. I held out the white paper. "Liam, what is this?" I asked. Liam looked down at the paper. For a second his smile froze, but he did not look scared. He did not drop his tongs. Instead, he just let out a long breath and shrugged his perfectly healed shoulders. "Oh," Liam said softly, looking around to make sure my parents were not listening. "They actually mailed that to your house? That is annoying." I checked the box that said email statements only. I stared at him. He was talking about a $48,000 fraud like it was a wrong food order at a restaurant. "You stole my identity, Liam," I whispered, my voice shaking with pure shock. "You forged my signature for a loan." Liam rolled his eyes behind his sunglasses. He looked at me like I was a little child crying over a broken toy. "Relax, Maya. Don't be so dramatic," he scoffed. turning back to the grill. I was in terrible pain. I couldn't sleep. I didn't have coverage, and my credit is bad. You have the good insurance and a great credit score. It was just a paperwork thing to get the surgery done. A paperwork thing? I repeated, my chest tight with pain. It is $48,000. My name is on this. And I will pay it back when my next business project takes off, he said smoothly. He picked up a spatula and pointed it at me. Look, family helps family. Your mom and dad agreed with me. We didn't want to bother you with the details because we knew you would overreact exactly like this. My blood stopped moving. The world felt like it was spinning. Your mom and dad agreed with me. I slowly turned my head and looked at the patio. My mother and father were sitting there, drinking iced tea. They were watching us. They saw the paper in my hand, but they were not shocked. My mother just looked away quickly, pretending to check her phone. They knew. My whole family knew. They had all watched me work late nights, stressing over my job, while they secretly helped Liam steal my future. This was my breaking point. I stood there on the green grass, staring at the patio. My legs felt like they were made of lead, but I forced myself to walk toward my parents. The cheerful country music from the radio now sounded like noise. Every step I took felt like walking in a nightmare. My mother, Helen, was sipping her iced tea. The glass was sweating in the summer heat. My father, Arthur, was wiping his hands on a paper towel. They saw me coming. They saw the tight grip I had on the white hospital bill. Mom, Dad, I said. My voice was raspy, like I had swallowed sand. Did you know about this? My mother let out a long, tired sigh. She carefully placed her glass on the glass patio table. She didn't look guilty. She looked annoyed. Maya, please, my mother said softly, looking over the fence to make sure the neighbors were not outside. Keep your voice down. You are going to ruin the Sunday barbecue. Chloe is having a good day. Don't start a drama. Drama? I choked out. I held up the 3 pages of paper. My hand was shaking so badly the papers rustled. This is a $48,000 loan. Liam used my social security number. He faked my signature. And you knew? My father stood up. He crossed his arms over his chest. He tried to look big and commanding, the way he always did when he wanted me to back down. Watch your tone with your mother, Maya, my dad said firmly. Nobody stole anything. It was just a temporary arrangement. Liam was in terrible pain. He could barely lift his arm. We had to do something. Then why didn't you put your name on the loan, Dad? I asked. The tears were burning the back of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. If family helps family, why didn't you use your credit? Why mine? For a second there was a heavy, uncomfortable silence. My father's face turned slightly red. He looked away, staring at the wooden deck. My mother suddenly looked very nervous. She picked up a napkin and started tearing it into tiny pieces. You know we couldn't do that, Maya, my mother said quickly. Her voice was higher than normal. We just couldn't. Not right now. Why not? I pushed, stepping closer. I was a data analyst. I looked at numbers all day. I knew my parents had good jobs and a paid-off house. Why couldn't you? Because of the IRS, okay? My father suddenly snapped. He rubbed his face, looking exhausted. If any bank or government agency looked deeply into our financial accounts right now, they would see the second mortgage. They would see the money we pulled out. I froze. What second mortgage? You paid off this house 5 years ago. We had to take it out last year, my mother whispered, finally looking ashamed. Liam had a misunderstanding with his old business partners. There was a legal settlement. We had to pay them off secretly, or Liam would have gone to jail for taking company funds. If the news got out, it would have destroyed Chloe's marriage and our family's reputation in town. The world stopped spinning. It just stood completely still. A secret legal settlement. A hidden second mortgage. Stolen company funds. This was the family secret. My parents were enablers. They were not just covering up Liam's bad behavior. They were actively funding his crimes to protect their fake image of a perfect family. And when they ran out of their own money, they decided to offer my clean, perfect financial record on a silver platter for him to use. So, I said slowly, putting the pieces together, you let him steal my identity because you had already ruined yourselves to save him. We didn't ruin ourselves, my dad argued, pointing a finger at me. We are managing it. And you have plenty of money, Maya. You have that fancy corporate job. You live alone. You don't have a husband or kids to feed. It is just a loan. You can make the monthly payments until Liam gets back on his feet. Stop being so selfish. Selfish. That word hit me right in the chest. But suddenly, it didn't hurt anymore. The deep, heavy grief I felt a few minutes ago vanished. The sad, lonely daughter inside me who just wanted her parents to love her, she died in that exact moment. Something cold and sharp woke up inside me instead. I looked at my mother. I looked at my father. I didn't see my parents anymore. I saw two strangers who were willing to destroy my entire future just to protect a criminal. I am not making a single payment, I said. My voice was no longer shaking. It was completely calm, quiet, and dead. My mother's eyes widened. Maya, if you don't pay it, it will go to collections. Your credit will be ruined. I know, I said. I carefully folded the Apex medical letters and put them safely inside my purse. Which is why I am giving you and Liam exactly 48 hours to clear this debt. You can sell your cars. You can sell Chloe's jewelry. I don't care how you do it. And if we can't? My father challenged, stepping closer to intimidate me. Then on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., I am walking into the police station, I said, looking right into his eyes without blinking. And I am filing a full police report for identity theft and wire fraud. I will hand them the papers. I will let the fraud investigators sort it out. You wouldn't dare, my mother gasped, standing up so fast her chair almost fell backward. You would send your own brother-in-law to jail? You would destroy your sister's life over money? What will people say about us? I guess we will find out, I replied. I didn't say goodbye. I turned around and walked down the driveway. I didn't look back when Chloe called my name. I didn't look back when my dad yelled that I was a heartless, ungrateful child. I got into my car. I locked the doors. I turned on the engine. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone in the world. But as I drove away from that house, holding the steering wheel tightly, I also felt something else. I felt free. The mask was off. Now it was time to build my case. Tuesday, June 20, 2023. The time was 9:05 a.m. The 48-hour deadline was up. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the Maple Creek police station. My hands were gripping the steering wheel. I looked down at my phone resting on the passenger seat. The screen was glowing. I had 42 missed calls and 115 text messages. But none of them were from my parents saying they had paid the debt. None of them were from Liam apologizing. Instead, the messages were from my extended family, the enablers. Aunt Susan texted, Maya, what is wrong with you? Your mother has been crying all night. It is just money. You don't send family to jail. My grandmother left a voicemail. You are breaking this family apart over a piece of paper. You should be ashamed. Even my cousin Mark, who I used to play with as a kid, texted. Chloe is so stressed out she can't eat. Why are you being so toxic? Let it go. Reading those messages felt like swallowing broken glass. Not a single person asked if I was okay. Not a single person cared that my future was being destroyed. They all knew Liam had stolen from me, but in their eyes I was the bad guy for not staying quiet and taking the pain. A hot tear rolled down my cheek. I let myself cry for exactly 1 minute. I cried for the family I thought I had. I cried for the little girl inside me who always tried so hard to be perfect, hoping her parents would notice her. Then, I wiped my face. I took a deep breath. The crying was over. I picked up the folder with the hospital bills, opened my car door, and walked into the police station. Inside, it smelled like old coffee and floor wax. I sat in a cold metal chair across from a tired-looking detective named Officer Jenkins. I handed him the papers and explained everything calmly. He looked over the $48,200 bill. He rubbed his chin. Miss Carter, this is serious, but I have to be honest with you. Cases involving family members are very messy, because your parents are on his side. Liam might lie and tell the judge that you gave him verbal permission to use your information. He will say it was a family agreement, and you just changed your mind. But I didn't, I said, my heart dropping. He faked my signature. I believe you, Officer Jenkins said kindly. But in the eyes of the law, it becomes a he said she said situation. We will file the report and start an investigation. But if you want the prosecutor to easily put him in jail, we need to prove his character. We need hard proof that he has a history of doing things like this. I walked out of the police station feeling heavy. There were no quick magical fixes in real life. Filing a police report was just the first step. The real fight was going to be a long, ugly war. I drove straight to my office at Blue Ridge Tech. I needed a distraction. I walked into the company cafeteria at lunchtime, carrying my laptop. That was where I met Rachel. Rachel Vance was a junior lawyer in our company's legal compliance department. We had shared coffee a few times, but we were just work friends. She was sharp, smart, and completely fearless. When she saw my pale face and the thick folder on my tray, she sat down right across from me. Okay, Maya, Rachel said, her brown eyes looking closely at me. You look like you haven't slept in 3 days. What is going on? I don't know why, but I just started talking. I told her everything. The Sunday barbecue, the fake hospital bill, the text messages from my Aunt Susan. I told her about the deep, painful realization that my family would rather throw me under a bus than expose Liam. Rachel didn't pity me. She didn't give me a fake, sweet hug. She just looked at the hospital bills like a hawk looking at its prey. This was the moment I found my chosen family. Blood relatives had betrayed me, but this stranger was ready to fight for me. They are counting on you being too emotional and too scared to fight back, Rachel said smoothly, tapping a pen on the table. Your family thinks you will give up because you are alone, but you are not alone anymore. I am going to help you. The police said it might be hard to prove unless I can show Liam has a history of fraud, I said quietly. Rachel's eyes lit up. Wait, didn't you mention your parents took out a secret second mortgage last year to pay off a legal settlement for Liam? Yes, I nodded. My dad slipped and said Liam stole funds from his old business partners. My parents paid them off secretly to save him from going to jail. Maya, listen to me, Rachel said, leaning closer. If a company caught him stealing, they would have made him sign a non-disclosure agreement and a formal settlement paper. Those documents leave a paper trail. If we can find out the name of his old company, we can prove to the police that Liam is a repeat corporate thief. It destroys his family misunderstanding defense. A small spark of energy hit my chest. I was a senior data analyst. My entire job was to find hidden patterns in huge piles of numbers and data. If there was a paper trail, I could find it. He never told us the name of the company, I said, opening my laptop. But I know my parents' home address, and public property records are available online. If they took out a second mortgage last year, the bank's loan documents will be in the county database. Exactly, Rachel smiled, looking proud. Find the date of the mortgage, then we track the money. We trace it back to the exact month his startup suddenly closed down. For the next 4 hours, I did not think about my mother's cold eyes or my dad's anger. I completely locked my emotions away. I became a machine. I used the county property website and searched my parents' address. There it was, August 12th, 2022. A second mortgage was taken out on my parents' house for exactly $65,000. I felt sick. They had $65,000 to save Liam from his own crimes, but they told me I was lucky to have my own health insurance. Got the date, I texted Rachel. August 2022. She texted back 1 minute later. Good. Now we dig into Liam's past. The rebuilding starts now. I took a deep breath. I was exiled from my family, yes, but I was finally building my own team, and we were going to find the secret they tried so hard to bury. The next 3 weeks were a blur of cold coffee and glowing computer screens. It was now Monday, July 10th, 2023. The time was 11:30 p.m. Outside my third-floor apartment, heavy summer rain was hitting the glass windows. Inside, my living room was dark except for the bright light of my laptop. I was tired, my back ached, but I could not stop. I was a data analyst. My brain was trained to find the missing piece of the puzzle. Rachel and I had a plan. To prove Liam was a repeat criminal to the police, we needed to find the company he stole from last year. I logged into the Illinois Secretary of State Public Business database. Liam always bragged at family dinners about being a CEO of his own startup. I typed his full name, Liam Thomas Davis. Hundreds of results popped up. I filtered them by the city of Chicago. Then, I filtered the dates. I knew my parents took out their secret $65,000 mortgage in August 2022, so whatever Liam did wrong must have happened right before that. I scrolled down. Suddenly, my eyes stopped on a line of text. Company name, Nova Stream Consulting LLC. Registered agent, Liam Davis. Status, dissolved. Date of dissolution, September 10, 2022. My heart did a little jump. The timeline matched perfectly. He closed the company just 2 weeks after my parents got the secret mortgage money. I clicked on the company details. There were 2 other names listed as business partners, David Tran and Robert Vance. I printed the document. The printer made a loud humming sound in my quiet apartment. Just as the warm paper came out, my apartment intercom buzzed. Bzzz. I jumped. I walked over to the door and looked at the small video screen. Standing in the rainy lobby downstairs, holding a wet umbrella, was my sister Chloe. I pressed the button to let her up. A minute later, I opened my apartment door. Chloe walked in. She was wearing an expensive beige trench coat, and she smelled like rich vanilla perfume. It was the same perfume my mother wore. For a second, the older sister inside me wanted to hug her. I wanted her to say she was sorry. I wanted her to tell me she was on my side. Maya, Chloe sighed, shaking the water off her umbrella. She looked around my small, simple apartment and frowned. You need better lighting in here. It feels depressing. What do you want, Chloe? I asked softly. I did not offer her a seat. Chloe's face completely changed. She suddenly looked like a helpless, sad victim, her eyes filled with tears. The police called Liam today, she said, her voice shaking. A detective asked him to come in for an interview about the hospital bill. Maya, do you know how embarrassing this is? The neighbors saw the police car drive by our house. I stared at her. He stole $48,000 in my name, Chloe. He committed fraud. He made a mistake, Chloe cried out, putting her hands on her face. He is trying his best. He wanted to get the surgery so he could go back to work and provide for me. He did it for our family, and now he is so stressed out that his shoulder is aching again. He can't even sleep. Why are you doing this to us? I felt a cold chill run down my arms. I looked at her crying face, and suddenly the picture was crystal clear. She wasn't brainwashed by Liam. She wasn't an innocent victim. She was an enabler. She loved the expensive lifestyle Liam promised her, and she didn't care who he hurt to get the money. In her mind, she and Liam were the main characters of the world, and I was just an extra who was supposed to suffer quietly so they could be happy. She genuinely believed I was the villain for defending myself. My credit was almost destroyed, I said, my voice completely flat and emotionless. My future was almost ruined. But it wasn't, Chloe argued, stepping closer. Mom and Dad said they would help you pay it eventually. You are just holding a grudge because Mom and Dad always liked me more. You are jealous of my marriage. The silence in the room was heavy. Her words were meant to cut me deeply. A few months ago they would have broken my heart, but today they just sounded pathetic. Get out of my apartment, Chloe, I said calmly. I pointed to the door. Maya, please, she changed her tone again, trying to sound sweet. Just call the detective. Tell him you made a mistake. Tell him you gave Liam permission to use your name. If you do this, Liam will go to jail. I will be all alone. Then you better learn how to get a job, I replied, looking right into my eyes. Because I am not going to jail for your husband. Good night, Chloe. Chloe's face turned red with pure anger. The sweet sister mask fell completely off. You are heartless, Maya. She spat the words at me. You are no longer my sister. She turned around and slammed the door behind her. I stood alone in my apartment. I didn't cry. I walked back to my printer and picked up the paper with the names of Liam's old business partners. DNA did not make us family. Loyalty did. And my biological family had zero loyalty. The next morning, Tuesday, July 11th, I walked into the Blue Ridge Tech cafeteria at 8 a.m. Rachel was already sitting at a table, drinking a green smoothie. I placed the paper in front of her. His old company was called NovaStream Consulting. His partners were David Tran and Robert Vance. Rachel's eyes widened. She put her smoothie down. A sharp, predator-like smile spread across her face. Maya, Rachel said softly, tapping her long fingernail on the paper. My uncle is a senior partner at the biggest corporate law firm in Chicago. Give me 2 hours. I will find out exactly what Liam did to these men. We are going to blow his fake world wide open. The rebuilding was working, and the secret was about to come out into the light. It was Thursday, July 13th, 2023. The time was 10:15 a.m. I was sitting at my desk at Blue Ridge Tech, looking at a spreadsheet on my double monitors. The office was quiet, except for the soft typing sounds and the low hum of the air conditioner. Suddenly, my desk phone buzzed. It was Rachel. Maya, come to Glass Meeting Room 402, right now, she said. Her voice was low and serious. I locked my computer and walked down the gray carpeted hallway. When I opened the door to room 402, Rachel was already there. She was standing by the window, holding a thick manila folder. The room smelled faintly of dry erase markers and cold coffee. Close the door, Rachel said, not looking up from the folder. I closed the door and sat in one of the black leather chairs. The glass table felt like a block of ice against my arms. My uncle made a few calls, Rachel began, opening the folder. He knows the lawyer who represented David Tran and Robert Vance, Liam's old business partners. Maya, your family didn't just have a misunderstanding, they covered up a major felony. My stomach tightened. Tell me exactly what he did. Rachel pulled out a piece of paper with notes written on it. In June 2022, Liam was the financial manager for NovaStream Consulting. His job was to handle the money that clients paid them up front, but Liam got greedy. He started writing fake checks and forging his partner's signatures. He stole exactly $65,000 from the company bank account. I felt the blood leave my face. He forged signatures? Yes, Rachel nodded, looking right into my eyes. He is not a first-time offender, Maya. He has a history of faking names to get money. David and Robert caught him in August 2022. They were furious. They were going to call the FBI for wire fraud. Liam was looking at serious prison time. I leaned back in my chair. The pieces of the puzzle were finally snapping together. But he didn't go to prison, because of my parents. Exactly, Rachel said, tapping the folder. Your father, Arthur, drove to David Tran's office. He begged them not to ruin his son-in-law's life. He cried. He promised to pay back every single penny if they agreed to keep quiet. So your parents took out that secret second mortgage. They paid the $65,000. In return, David and Robert signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. It means they legally cannot talk about the theft. I stared out the glass wall of the meeting room. I could see my coworkers laughing by the water cooler. They had normal lives. They had normal families. Inside my chest, something permanently broke. But it did not hurt anymore. It just felt like a cold, empty room. My parents knew. My father and mother knew Liam was a criminal. They knew he was a liar and a thief. They knew he was capable of forging signatures. Yet, a few months later, they invited him to Sunday dinners. They let him sit next to my purse. They let him steal my social security number. They protected the wolf, and they threw their own daughter to him just to keep the peace. They were the ultimate enablers. If Liam forged signatures before, I said slowly, my mind working like a machine, then this proves to Detective Jenkins that Liam did the same thing to me. It destroys Liam's lie that I gave him permission. Yes, Rachel agreed. It is the perfect weapon, but there is a huge problem. Because of the NDA, that settlement paper is buried. I cannot legally get a copy of it. The police cannot get it without a heavy court order, which takes months. The only way we get that paper quickly is if David Tran voluntarily gives it to us. Will he? I asked. Rachel sighed and sat down across from me. Why would he? He got his $65,000 back. If he breaks the NDA and talks to you, your parents could actually sue him for breaking the contract. Real life is messy, Maya. People don't help strangers if it puts themselves in danger. I looked down at my hands. They were not shaking anymore. The weak, sad girl who cried in her car outside the police station was completely gone. I was a data analyst. My job was to look at a difficult problem and find the logical path forward. David Tran was a businessman. He would only help me if it made logical sense for him. I needed to convince him. I need his phone number, I said, looking up at Rachel. Rachel raised her eyebrow. Maya, if you call him, he might just hang up. You are the sister-in-law of the guy who robbed him. I'm not his sister-in-law anymore, I said coldly. I am the next victim, and I am going to make a deal with him. Rachel smiled. It was a proud, sharp smile. She wrote a phone number on a yellow sticky note and slid it across the glass table. David Tran owns a new logistics company in downtown Chicago. Call him. Let's see what you can do. I took the yellow note. The paper felt heavy in my hand. This was the turning point. My biological family had built a wall of lies to protect a monster. But I was building a team to tear that wall down. The secret was out. Now I just needed the proof. I picked up my cell phone and dialed the number. The phone rang 3 times. My hands felt cold, but my mind was completely focused. On the 4th ring, a man with a deep, busy voice answered. David Tran speaking. I took a breath. Mr. Tran, my name is Maya Carter. I am Arthur Carter's daughter, and I am Liam Davis's sister-in-law. There was a heavy, dead silence on the phone. Then, I heard a sharp, angry sigh. Listen, lady, I have an NDA. I don't know what you want, but your father paid the money. The business is closed. Do not call this number again. Wait, I said quickly, leaning forward in my chair. He did it again. He forged my name this time. He stole $48,000. The line went quiet again. This time it was a different kind of silence. It was the sound of a man who was not surprised at all. I pushed forward. The police are investigating him right now. Detective Jenkins at the Maple Creek station has the case. But Liam is going to lie. He is going to tell the police that it was a family agreement, and that I gave him permission. I need the settlement paper you signed with my parents. I need it to prove to the police that Liam has a history of forging signatures. David scoffed. It was a bitter, dry sound. Miss Carter, if I give you that paper, your father will sue me for breaking the non-disclosure agreement. I am a businessman. I just started a new logistics company. I am not risking my business for your messy family drama. It is not family drama, I said. My voice was not shaking. It was cold, hard, and logical. It is a federal crime. If the police find out that you secretly helped cover up a felony forgery last year, they will drag you into their investigation. They will take your computers. They will freeze your bank accounts. Is your new company ready for that? Rachel, who was sitting across from me, smiled brightly. She gave me a silent thumbs up. I was not begging like a weak victim. I was negotiating like a professional. I heard David breathing on the other end of the line. Real life is not a movie. People do not risk themselves just to be heroes. They only move when their own safety is on the line. But, I continued smoothly, if you hand the paper to the detective as a character witness, you are legally protected. You are helping the police solve a fraud case. You become the good guy, and my father's NDA becomes useless because it was used to hide a crime. Another long pause. The grandfather clock of the real world was ticking. Tomorrow, David finally said. His voice was low and serious. 1 p.m. The Red Bean Coffee Shop on State Street in downtown Chicago. Come alone. If I see anyone else with you, I am walking away. He hung up before I could say thank you. The next day was Friday, July 14, 2023. The time was 12:45 p.m. It was raining heavily in downtown Chicago. The gray sky matched how I felt inside. I walked into the Red Bean Coffee Shop. The air smelled like roasted coffee beans and wet coats. It was loud and busy. People were typing on laptops and talking loudly. I sat at a small table in the back corner. At exactly 1 p.m., a tall Asian man wearing a sharp blue suit walked in. He looked around carefully, spotted me, and walked over. He looked tired. He had dark circles under his eyes. He sat down across from me. He did not order coffee. He just placed a thick brown envelope on the table and kept his hand on it. You look like your father, David said quietly. I am nothing like my father, I replied instantly. David studied my face for a second. Then, he slowly nodded. Liam was so charming, you know. When we started the company, he made Robert and me feel like we were his best friends. He was always smiling, always bringing donuts to the office. David looked down at the table, looking angry at his own memory. But when we caught him writing fake checks to himself, his mask fell off. He didn't even apologize at first. He actually blamed us. He said we were not paying him enough for his genius ideas. He truly believed he deserved to steal our money. He played the victim perfectly. A deep, sharp pain hit my chest. Not because of the money, but because my parents saw this exact monster. My father sat in a room with this man, looked at the fake checks, and still chose to protect Liam over me. They knew exactly how dangerous he was. David slid the brown envelope across the table to me. Everything is in there, David said. Copies of the 6 checks he forged, the bank statements, and the settlement paper signed by your father, Arthur Carter, agreeing to pay $65,000 to keep Liam out of jail. My hands trembled slightly as I touched the rough paper of the envelope. This was it. The ultimate family secret was now sitting in my hands. The parallel lines of the story had crossed. By building my own team with Rachel, I had finally uncovered the secret my enabler parents tried to bury. Why did you really come today? I asked, looking up at him. You could have just blocked my number. David stood up. He buttoned his suit jacket. Because guys like Liam never stop. They just find new people to use. Don't thank me, Maya. Just put him in jail before he ruins anyone else's life. He walked out into the rain, leaving me alone at the table. I opened the envelope and pulled out the papers. There it was. Liam's signature, perfectly copying David's name. And at the bottom of the NDA, my father's signature. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. For my entire life, I thought I was the problem. I thought I was not lovable enough, not smart enough, not good enough for my parents to celebrate me the way they celebrated Chloe. But looking at these papers, I finally understood the truth. They were sick. Their need to look like a perfect family was a disease, and I was finally cured. I took out my phone and texted Rachel. I have the papers. The weapon is loaded. Rachel texted back immediately. Perfect. Now we just need the right place to pull the trigger. Where do we trap him? I looked at my phone calendar. Next month was August 20th to be exact. It was my parents' 40th wedding anniversary. They were planning a massive, expensive dinner party at the Maple Creek Country Club. The entire family would be there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, everyone. It was the perfect place for a public confrontation. August 5th, 2023. The time was 10 a.m. The August heat was thick and heavy, making the air look wavy above the gray pavement. I pushed open the heavy glass doors of the Maple Creek police station. The cool air inside hit my face. I walked straight to Detective Jenkins' desk. He was drinking coffee and typing on his old keyboard. When he saw me, He gave a tired smile. Miss Carter, did you find something? I didn't say a word. I just opened my bag, took out the thick brown envelope, and placed it on his desk. Detective Jenkins opened it. He pulled out the copies of the forged checks from NovaStream Consulting. He saw the settlement paper with my father's signature. For a long minute, the only sound in the police station was the turning of paper. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wide. The tired look was completely gone. Maya, Detective Jenkins said quietly, leaning forward. This is a gold mine. You found his exact pattern. He steals, he forges signatures, and he hides it. This destroys his family permission lie. So, what happens now? I asked. My voice was calm and steady. Do you arrest him? Real-life legal work is slow, Miss Carter, he explained, tapping the paper. White-collar crimes like fraud take time. I have to give these papers to the district attorney. A prosecutor has to review the whole case, check the bank records, and then present it to a judge to get an official arrest warrant. That process takes about 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That would be the end of August. So Liam is a free man until the judge signs the paper? I asked. Yes, Detective Jenkins nodded. He won't even know we are coming for him until the police knock on his door with the warrant. You did great work, Maya. Just lay low. Let the law do its job. I walked out of the police station feeling a deep, solid sense of peace. The trap was officially set. My team had done the impossible. The law was finally moving against Liam, but there was one thing the law could not fix: my parents' fake reality. When I arrived back at my apartment building, I checked my mailbox. Inside, sitting on top of the junk mail, was a thick, expensive-looking square envelope. It was pure white with shiny gold letters on the front. I opened it in the elevator. The card inside read, Arthur and Helen Carter joyfully invite you to celebrate their 40th Ruby wedding anniversary. Date, Sunday, August 20, 2023. Location, Maple Creek Country Club. Time, 7 p.m. A dry, bitter laugh escaped my lips. My parents had secretly paid $65,000 to cover up a felony. They had let Liam steal $48,000 in my name. I had not spoken to them in a month. Yet, here was a fancy gold invitation, inviting me to eat cake and celebrate their perfect marriage. As I walked into my apartment, my cell phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was my mother. I took a deep breath, pressed the green button, and put the phone to my ear. Hello, Maya, sweetie. My mother's voice was high, sweet, and perfectly cheerful. It was the exact same tone she used at the Sunday barbecue. Did you get the invitation? I got it, Mom, I said flatly. Oh, wonderful, she chirped. I was just calling to make sure you are coming. Aunt Susan and Uncle Bob are flying in from Texas. The whole family will be there. You have to wear that lovely dark blue dress you bought last year. It looks so good in photos. I closed my eyes. Photos. That was all that mattered to her. She wanted me there so the family pictures would look complete. Mom, I asked softly, testing her. What about Liam and the hospital bill? There was a short pause. Then my mother sighed, acting like I was just being a difficult child. Maya, please. Let's put that silly misunderstanding behind us. We are family. Liam is doing much better. He is even preparing a beautiful speech for your father and me. It will be a magical night. Just come, smile, and let's all be happy, okay? She really believed she had won. She believed that because I had been quiet for a few weeks, I had given up. She thought I was going to accept my role as the scapegoat, pay the $48,000 quietly, and stand in the background of her perfect family photos. Real-life villains do not wear black capes. They wear nice perfumes, plan expensive parties, and smile while they step on your neck. Okay, Mom, I said. My voice was as smooth as glass. I will be there. Oh, thank you, sweetie. See you then. She hung up, completely happy. I put my phone down. I walked over to my desk and opened my laptop. I did not feel sad anymore. I did not feel angry. I felt like a surgeon about to perform a necessary, painful operation. The next day, Rachel came to my apartment after work. She brought 2 large cups of coffee and a box of plain black folders. We sat on my living room floor, surrounded by printed papers. We made 5 exact copies of the evidence: the forged checks, the $65,000 secret mortgage statement, the NDA signed by my father, the $48,200 hospital bill in my name. We placed 1 set of papers into each black folder. Who gets the folders? Rachel asked, writing labels with a black marker. 1 for Liam, I said, handing her a stack. 1 for my dad, 1 for my mom, 1 for Chloe, and the last one, I paused, looking at the shiny gold party invitation on my table. The last one is for the main table, for everyone to see. Rachel smiled softly. Are you ready for this, Maya? Once you do this in front of the whole family, there is no going back. The bridge will be burned forever. I looked out my apartment window. The sun was setting, turning the sky a dark, angry red. I thought about the years of silent suffering. I thought about sitting at the edge of the table, desperately wanting them to love me. That girl was dead. The bridge is already burned, Rachel, I said quietly. Now, I am just going to let them see the ashes. August 20th was coming. The climax was set. Sunday, August 20, 2023. The time was 7:15 p.m. The Maple Creek Country Club looked like a movie set. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling. The large room smelled of expensive roasted beef and fresh white roses. A small band was playing soft, classical music in the corner. Waiters in neat black vests walked around with silver trays of champagne. I stood alone at the entrance of the main ballroom. I was wearing the dark blue dress my mother had demanded I wear. But over my shoulder I carried a heavy black leather tote bag. Inside the bag were the 5 black folders. My heart was beating in a slow, steady rhythm. I was not scared. I felt a deep, grounded sense of calm. This was not about loud revenge. This was about quiet justice. Maya, you made it. I turned around. My mother, Helen, was walking toward me in a shiny ruby-red dress. She grabbed my arms and kissed the empty air next to my cheek so she wouldn't ruin her makeup. You look fine, she said, quickly fixing a piece of my hair with her fingers. Now listen to me. The photographer is taking family pictures at table 1 in 10 minutes. Stand next to Chloe, and please just smile. Don't look so serious tonight. Do not ruin this for us. I will smile, Mom, I said softly. I walked over to table 1. It was placed right in the middle of the room, on a small raised platform. My dad, Arthur, was laughing loudly with Uncle Bob and Aunt Susan. Chloe was sitting in a tall chair, showing off her diamond ring to our cousins. And then, there was Liam. He was wearing a perfectly fitted black tuxedo. He looked like a billionaire. He was holding a glass of wine and smiling his bright, charming smile. When he saw me walking up, he left the family group and walked over to me. Maya, he said smoothly. He leaned in close, lowering his voice so the rest of the family couldn't hear. I am really glad you came. Your mom told me you finally dropped that whole police nonsense. I looked at him closely. I noticed a tiny drop of sweat near his hairline. He was acting confident, but he was subtly checking to see if I was still a threat. I just did what made sense, Liam, I said. My voice was totally flat. Liam let out a long breath and chuckled. He patted my shoulder like I was a good dog. Good girl. I knew you would understand eventually. Family helps family, right? I will pay you back that hospital money someday, I promise. He didn't mean a single word of it. He just wanted to make sure his perfect night wasn't ruined. Attention, everyone, my dad's loud voice suddenly echoed through the large room. The live music stopped. The 70 guests sitting at the round tables stopped talking and looked up. My dad was standing at the center of table 1, holding a microphone. Thank you all for coming to celebrate 40 years of marriage with my beautiful wife Helen, my dad said, wiping a fake tear from his eye. We have built a wonderful life, but our biggest pride is our family. We always stick together, through thick and thin. Aunt Susan clapped loudly. Here, here. And now, my dad smiled, pointing a finger at Liam. The man of the hour, our amazing son-in-law Liam, wants to say a few words. Liam took the microphone. He stood tall, looking out at the large crowd. He looked so respectable, so honest. Helen, Arthur, Liam started, his voice deep and emotional. You are not just my in-laws. You are my true parents. When my business hit a rough patch last year, you supported me. When my shoulder was in terrible pain, you were there for me. You taught me what real loyalty looks like. Chloe looked up at him with pure love in her eyes. My mother was actually wiping away real tears. The extended family and guests at the other tables were smiling warmly, completely fooled by the mask. This was it. The toxic equilibrium was at its absolute peak. They were wrapping themselves in a blanket of beautiful, shiny lies, while my $48,200 debt and my stolen identity were swept under the rug. I slowly unzipped my black leather tote bag. The metal zipper made a tiny, sharp sound. I pulled out the 5 black folders. They felt heavy and solid in my hands. I did not stand up and scream. I did not throw a glass of water. I just walked calmly to the front of table 1, stopping right next to where Liam was standing with the microphone. Because the whole room was watching Liam, every single guest saw me step into the light. Liam paused his speech. He looked at me, confused. Maya? Did you want to say something? I didn't use the microphone. I just looked at him, then at my parents sitting behind him. "I brought an anniversary gift," I said quietly. But the room was so totally silent that everyone near the front tables heard my voice. I placed the first black folder directly on the white tablecloth in front of Liam. I placed the second folder in front of my dad, the third folder in front of my mom, the fourth in front of Chloe, and the final folder I placed right in the exact center of table 1. I opened it wide so anyone walking by could see the bold black text on the papers inside. My dad frowned. He picked up his folder in front of the whole crowd. "Maya, what is this garbage? Now is not the time for—" He opened it. His voice completely died in his throat. His face instantly turned the color of pale ash. He saw the settlement paper. He saw his own signature from the $65,000 cover-up. At the exact same time, Liam opened his folder. The bright, charming smile completely melted off his face. His eyes locked onto the forged checks from NovaStream Consulting. His hands started to shake so badly he almost dropped the microphone on the floor. The enablers were frozen. The secret was on the table. The time was exactly 7:22 p.m. The crystal chandeliers hanging above us suddenly seemed blindingly bright. The clinking of champagne glasses completely stopped. The soft classical music died away. The only sound in the massive, beautiful room was the rough rustling of the heavy white paper in my father's shaking hands. "Maya," my dad whispered. His voice was not loud and commanding anymore. It was terrified. Where did you get this?" "I made a phone call, Dad," I said calmly. "To David Tran." My mother Helen leaned over and looked at the paper in my dad's folder. When she saw his signature on the $65,000 non-disclosure agreement, she gasped sharply and covered her mouth with both hands. Her perfect ruby red lipstick looked like a harsh, unnatural stain on her suddenly pale face. "Helen, what is that?" Aunt Susan called out from table 2. The extended family was now stretching their necks, squinting their eyes to see the papers. "What is going on up there?" Liam panicked. His smooth, charming mask cracked into tiny pieces. He quickly grabbed the microphone again. His knuckles were completely white. "Everyone, please listen," Liam said loudly into the mic, forcing a fake, nervous laugh. "This is just, Maya has been under a lot of stress at her corporate job. She is having a little mental episode tonight. We should give her some space. You know how family drama gets." He was gaslighting me in front of 70 people. He was trying to use the crazy woman excuse to save his own skin, just like a manipulator does in real life when they are trapped. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The truth does not need to scream. I reached for the open folder in the center of the table. I picked up the Apex medical bill and held it up high so the front tables could see the bold red letters. "This is a medical loan for $48,200, I said clearly. My voice was steady and carried across the quiet room. "For a rotator cuff surgery on December 5, 2022. The patient is Liam Davis. The financial guarantor is Maya Carter. Liam stole my social security number while eating dinner at our parents' house. He forged my signature to pay for his surgery." The room erupted into loud gasps. Uncle Bob dropped his metal fork. It hit his china dinner plate with a sharp clink. "That is a lie," Chloe screamed, jumping up from her tall chair. Her diamond ring flashed under the ceiling lights. "Liam would never do that. He didn't have insurance coverage. It was just a misunderstanding. Read your folder, Chloe," I said, pointing directly at the black folder sitting in front of her. Chloe snatched it open. She saw the copies of the fake checks from NovaStream Consulting. But more importantly, she saw the bank statement for my parents' secret second mortgage. "Mom?" Chloe's voice broke. She looked at our mother in pure shock. Her eyes filled with real tears. "What is this? You took out a $65,000 loan on the house. You told me Liam's business closed because the market was bad." My mother looked around wildly. Her rich friends from the country club were staring at her. The perfect, untouchable family image she had spent 40 years building was burning to ashes in front of her eyes. "Keep your voice down, Chloe," my mother hissed, completely forgetting to act sweet and delicate. "People are staring at us." That was it. That was her only concern in the middle of a nightmare. Not the felony, not the stolen identity, not the fact that her daughter was hurting. Just the staring eyes of her country club friends. "He stole $65,000 from his last company, Chloe," I explained calmly, looking right at my younger sister. "He forged his partner's signatures. Mom and Dad secretly paid the money to keep him out of federal prison. And because they had no money left after saving him, they let him steal my identity to pay for his hospital bills." "Shut up," Liam suddenly yelled. The fake billionaire charm was totally gone. He slammed his fist down on the table. The water glasses shook and spilled onto the white cloth. "You selfish brat. You sit in your nice, quiet apartment with your perfect credit score and your platinum insurance. The The medical system in this country is rigged against independent guys like me. I couldn't sleep because of the pain. I deserved that surgery. I was going to pay you back when my next project launched." He didn't sound like a cartoon villain. He sounded like a weak, highly entitled man who genuinely believed the rules of the world did not apply to him. He was justifying his theft right in front of everyone because, in his mind, his pain was more important than my life. "You didn't launch a project, Liam," I said, my voice cold and sharp. "You played golf while I worked 60-hour weeks, but none of your excuses matter anymore." My dad stood up. He tried to puff out his chest and take control, just like he always did when things went wrong. "Maya, gather these papers right now. We will discuss this at home. You are ruining your mother's anniversary night." "I am not going home, Dad," I said, zipping up my empty black leather bag. "And we are not discussing anything." I gave these exact same papers to Detective Jenkins at the Maple Creek Police Station on August 2nd. The district attorney has been reviewing them for almost 3 weeks. Liam froze completely. The anger in his eyes vanished, replaced by pure, cold terror. You went to the police?" "Yes," I nodded. "And because I gave them the signed NDA from your last forgery, they know exactly what your pattern is." The detective said the arrest warrant should be signed any day now. My mother let out a loud, ugly cry. She grabbed my dad's arm, her knees visibly shaking. "Arthur, do something. Tell them it's a mistake, our reputation." But my dad didn't look at me. He slowly turned his head and looked at Liam. For the first time, my father realized that protecting Liam had ruined his own life. The country club friends were whispering and pointing. Uncle Bob was shaking his head in disgust and walking away from the table. The respectable family man mask was dead. "You absolute idiot," my dad whispered to Liam, his face twisted in pure, hateful anger. "I paid $65,000 to save your worthless neck, and you stole from my own daughter? In my own house?" The enablers were finally turning on each other. The toxic equilibrium was completely shattered. When the lies stop working, manipulative people always turn on each other to save themselves. I looked at the 4 of them standing on the raised platform. Without their fake masks, they looked small, pathetic, and miserable. "Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad," I said softly. I turned my back on them and started walking down the center aisle, heading toward the heavy glass exit doors. I didn't look back once. Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. The time was 8:15 a.m. The hot summer was over. A cool autumn wind was blowing outside my apartment window, making the yellow leaves dance on the street. I was sitting at my kitchen counter, holding a warm cup of coffee. My phone buzzed on the table. It was Detective Jenkins. I took a sip of my coffee and answered. "Hello, Detective." Good morning, Maya." His voice was rough but professional. "I am calling to give you an official update. The judge signed the warrant yesterday. 2 patrol officers went to your parents' house this morning at 6 a.m. Liam Davis is officially in police custody." I closed my eyes. The heavy weight that I had been carrying on my chest for almost a year suddenly felt a little lighter. "Did he fight back?" I asked. "No," Detective Jenkins replied. "Real life isn't a movie, Maya. Most of these white-collar guys just freeze." He was wearing his silk pajamas. He cried in the back of the police car and asked for a lawyer. He was booked at the county jail for felony identity theft and wire fraud. The judge set his bail at $150,000. "Thank you, Detective," I said softly. "We will need you to testify when the court date is set," he added. "Stay strong." "I will be in touch." He hung up. I put my phone down. There was no magical celebration music playing in the background. There was no confetti. It was just a quiet Tuesday morning. But the silence in my apartment felt beautiful. It was clean. It was safe. 10 minutes later, my phone beeped. It was a long text message from an unknown number, but I knew exactly who it was from. It was Chloe. "Maya, Liam is in a jail cell. Are you happy now? He is mixed in with real criminals. Mom's blood pressure was so high the doctor had to come over. Dad is at the bail bondsman office right now. Because of the first loan, the only way Dad can afford the 10% bail fee is to empty his retirement savings. You are destroying us over a stupid hospital bill. Please, I am begging you, call the police and tell them to drop the charges. Be the bigger person. Family forgives." I stared at the screen. I read the words carefully. Family forgives. A few months ago, reading that message would have broken me. I would have felt guilty. I would have wondered if I was actually the bad guy. I would have tried to fix it so they would love me again. But not today. Today, I saw the message for what it really was. Pure, selfish manipulation. Chloe didn't care about my ruined credit score. My father didn't care that Liam stole my identity. My mother didn't care about the law. They only cared about protecting their fake reality. In their minds, they were the victims, and I was the cruel villain who ruined their perfect anniversary party. They would never change. The villain never thinks they are the villain. They justify their evil actions by calling it family loyalty. I didn't type a reply. I didn't send an angry paragraph defending myself. You cannot negotiate with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. I tapped the screen and pressed block contact. Then, I opened my phone settings. I blocked my father's number. I blocked my mother's number. I blocked Aunt Susan and Uncle Bob. I blocked every single enabler who had ever sent me a message telling me to stay quiet. I built a massive, invisible wall around my life. That was my new boundary. Later that afternoon, I met Rachel at the Blue Ridge Tech cafeteria. We sat at our usual table. I showed her the email I received from the Apex Medical Billing Department. They officially froze the account, I said, pointing to the screen, because there is a formal police report and an active criminal case. The $48,200 debt is suspended. They removed the late fees, and they are investigating Liam directly. That is great news, Maya, Rachel smiled, eating a salad. But remember, your credit score is still damaged. It takes time. I know, I nodded. I have to mail affidavits to the 3 major credit bureaus next week. It will take maybe 6 to 8 months for the fraud alerts to clear off my record. It is slow, boring paperwork. But it is moving forward, Rachel said, looking right at me. You fought back, Maya. You won. I looked at Rachel. She wasn't my biological sister. We didn't share any DNA. But when my whole family threw me to the wolves, she stood beside me and handed me a sword. DNA is just biology, I said quietly, smiling at her. Loyalty is what makes a family. Thank you, Rachel, for everything. Any time, partner, she winked. When I went home that evening, I checked my physical mailbox. There was a letter inside. The envelope was light pink, and the handwriting was elegant and perfectly curved. It was my mother's handwriting. I walked upstairs, unlocked my door, and sat on my sofa. I opened the pink envelope. It was a handwritten card. There was no apology in it. There was no mention of the $48,000 fraud, or the $65,000 secret cover-up. It just said, Maya, we raised you to be a good Christian girl. A good daughter protects her family. We leave the door open for you to come home and apologize to your father and me. We can fix this if you just act right. Love, Mom. I read the delicate looping letters. I didn't feel angry. I didn't cry. I felt completely, totally empty of any emotion toward them. I walked into my kitchen, held the pink letter over the metal sink, and struck a match. I lit the corner of the paper on fire. I watched the yellow flame eat through the elegant handwriting. The paper turned black and curled up. I dropped it into the sink and turned on the cold water. The ashes washed down the drain, disappearing forever. The toxic equilibrium was dead. The scapegoat was gone, and my real life was finally about to begin. Friday, June 16, 2026. The time was 6:30 p.m. I was sitting on the wooden back deck of my new house in Evanston, Illinois. The summer air smelled like fresh-cut grass and iced tea. There were no expensive vanilla candles burning. There was no classical music playing. There were no fake smiles. It was just quiet, peaceful, and real. A lot can happen in 3 years when you finally cut the toxic weight out of your life. It took exactly 14 months of slow, boring paperwork with lawyers and credit bureaus to clear the $48,200 medical fraud off my name. It was not a fast or magical fix. I spent hours on hold with customer service, filling out police affidavits, and sending certified mail. But by December 2024, the Apex medical loan was officially erased from my history. My credit score returned to a perfect 810. 6 months later, I used that perfect credit score to buy this house. The justice system moved slowly, but it hit Liam like a freight train. In April 2024, Liam stood in front of a judge in the county courthouse. When his expensive defense lawyer saw the copies of the forged checks from NovaStream Consulting, the bank records, and the $65,000 NDA signed by my father, they knew it was over. There was no way to lie to a jury. Liam was terrified of going to trial, so he took a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to felony wire fraud. The judge sentenced him to 3 years in a low-security state prison in Vandalia, Illinois. The judge also ordered him to pay heavy financial restitution to everyone he hurt. When the judge hit the wooden gavel, Liam didn't look charming anymore. He just looked small and weak. But the biggest tragedy was not Liam. It was my parents. They could not accept the truth. Even after the arrest, my father Arthur tried to save his fake family image. He emptied his entire retirement savings account to pay for Liam's high-priced defense lawyers and his $15,000 bail fee. It was a massive, emotional mistake. By the summer of 2025, my parents had no savings left. Because they had secretly taken out that $65,000 second mortgage to cover up Liam's first crime, their monthly bills were too high. The bank eventually foreclosed on their beautiful, perfect house in Maple Creek. The country club membership was canceled. The rich friends stopped calling them. When the money completely ran out, Chloe suddenly woke up. She realized Liam was never going to be the billionaire CEO she wanted. Without the expensive dinners and the shiny credit cards, her true love disappeared. She filed for a quiet divorce while Liam was sitting in his prison cell. Today, my parents and my sister live together in a cramped, cheap 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of the city. I know this because, yesterday afternoon, I checked my mailbox and found a white envelope. It had a cheap stamp and my father's messy handwriting on the front. He must have found my new address through public property records online. I sat at my kitchen island and opened it. The letter inside was written on plain-lined notebook paper. Maya, I am an old man now, and my health is failing. Your mother cries every single night. We lost the house. We lost everything. Chloe is working at a retail store, but she barely makes enough to help with the grocery bills. We were wrong to trust Liam. He fooled us all. But we are still your parents, and Chloe is still your sister. Blood is thicker than water. You have a great job at Blue Ridge Tech, and we heard you bought a house. Please, Maya. Family is supposed to heal together. Send us some help. Let us be a family again. Love, Dad. I sat there and stared at the paper. 3 years ago, a letter like this would have made me cry. I would have felt a huge amount of guilt. I would have driven straight to their apartment with my checkbook, desperate to save them so they would finally love me. But sitting in my quiet, safe kitchen, I felt nothing but a dull, empty sadness. Not for the people they were, but for the parents I wished they had been. The letter was a classic manipulator's trap. Notice what was missing from his words. He never said, I am sorry I let him steal your identity. He never said, I am sorry I yelled at you and called you a liar. He only said he was wrong to trust Liam because Liam cost him his house. He wasn't apologizing for my pain. He was only upset about his own pain. If I gave them a single dollar, or if I let them back into my life, they would just go right back to using me as their scapegoat. The toxic cycle would restart. Real family drama does not end with everyone hugging and crying. It ends with a strong boundary. I did not text him. I did not call my mother. I did not write an angry reply. I just walked over to my home office, turned on the paper shredder, and pushed the letter into the slot. Bzzz. In 5 seconds, the guilt trip was cut into 100 tiny pieces of trash. Suddenly, my front doorbell rang. I smiled, grabbed a bowl of potato chips, and walked to the front door. I opened it to find Rachel standing on my porch. She was wearing casual jeans and carrying a 6-pack of cold sodas. Hey, homeowner, Rachel grinned, walking inside like she owned the place. I hope you fired up the grill. I am starving. Burgers are almost ready, counselor. I laughed, closing the door behind her. Rachel had just been promoted to senior legal counsel at our company. We celebrated every milestone together now. She was the one who helped me pick out the paint colors for my living room. We walked out to the back deck together. The evening sun was setting, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and purple. We sat in the lawn chairs, opened our sodas, and talked about our jobs, our goals, and our plans for the weekend. I looked at Rachel laughing at a joke I made. My parents used to tell me that blood is thicker than water. They used that phrase like a chain to keep me tied to their abuse. But I learned the hard way that DNA is just biology. A shared last name does not give anyone the right to destroy your mental health or steal your future. Loyalty, honesty, and respect are what actually make a family. You don't have to stay at a table where you are only served disrespect. You are allowed to get up, walk away, and build your own table. And looking around my peaceful backyard, I knew I had finally built mine.